I live in a duplex with my brother. The house is split into two separate units. He occupies the downstairs while I have the entire upper floor to myself. It's a comfortable setup, even if it gets a little unsettling at night when I'm home alone. My brother spends most of his time at his girlfriend's place across town, leaving me alone more often than not. I'm 31. I should be past the point of letting an empty house creep me out, but some nights, when the wind howls just right and the shadows stretch too far, I can't shake the unease that creeps up my spine. That particular night, I was sprawled on the couch in the living room, watching a horror movie with the lights off. My unit has an open floor plan, meaning the living room, kitchen, and dining area all blend together. My couch sits in the center of it all, and that's the part that gets to me. When I'm watching TV, my back is exposed to the vast emptiness behind me. Maybe it was the unsettling silence of the house or just the paranoia that sometimes accompanies watching scary movies alone, but I found myself glancing over my shoulder more than I'd like to admit. Eventually, the movie ended, and I shook off the irrational nerves. I brushed my teeth, turned off all the lights, and climbed into bed. Sleep came quickly, but only for a couple of hours. I woke up abruptly, disoriented. I lay still for a moment, trying to pinpoint what had pulled me from sleep. Then I heard it. A voice. It was coming from downstairs. It sounded exactly like my brother. At first, I thought maybe he had come home early, but something felt off. He wasn't talking normally, it was more like he was calling for me, his voice a little too loud, a little too forced. Still groggy, I sat up and rubbed my eyes. "What?" I called out. No response. The voice called again, repeating my name. Something about the way he said it made my stomach tighten. It was his voice, but the tone was wrong. There was an unnatural cadence to it, like someone mimicking him but not quite getting it right. I swung my legs over the bed and padded toward the hallway. The entire house was dark except for the dim glow of the streetlight filtering through the blinds. My skin prickled with unease as I took slow steps toward the stairs. "Hello?" I called, my voice hushed now. The reply came instantly, this time even clearer. My name, stretched just a little too long. I hesitated. Something in my gut screamed at me to stop, to turn around and lock my door. But I forced myself forward. My foot hit the first step, and I peered down into the darkness. The foyer was pitch black. "Chris," I called, my voice firmer. No answer. I inhaled sharply and made my way down, one step at a time. When I reached the bottom, I fumbled against the wall for the light switch but couldn't find it in the dark. Then I heard movement in my brother's bedroom. A rustling noise, followed by a dull thud, like something heavy falling to the floor. My mouth went dry. I had checked. My brother was supposed to be at his girlfriend's place. He wasn't here. My breath came quicker as I took a slow step toward his room. The door was slightly ajar, revealing a sliver of blackness inside. I reached out and pushed it open. The room was empty. I swallowed hard, my pulse pounding in my ears. I stepped inside, scanning the space. Nothing seemed out of place, no signs of anything falling. Yet I knew I hadn't imagined that sound. And then, the air changed. A presence. The hair on my arm stood on end as a cold whisper brushed against my ear. "Go back upstairs." I spun around so fast I nearly lost my balance. The room was empty, completely still, but I felt it. Someone, or something, was in there with me. I bolted. I flew up the stairs two at a time, slammed my bedroom door shut, and locked it. My hands trembled as I grabbed my phone and dialed my brother's number. It rang twice before he groggily picked up. "Dude, it's like 1 in the morning. Are you home?" I demanded. Silence. Then, "No? I told you. I'm staying at Nicole's." "Why?" I didn't answer right away. My brain was struggling to form words. "I heard you," I whispered finally. "What?" I swallowed hard. "Someone was downstairs. I heard your voice." More silence. Then, a sharp exhale. "Are you messing with me?" "No." That was all I could say, because I didn't even know how to explain it. Eventually, I convinced myself that it had to be my imagination. Maybe I had been dreaming, and the transition between sleep and wakefulness had blurred reality. But the next morning, curiosity got the best of me. I went downstairs to check my brother's room again. Nothing was out of place, except the closet door. It was open just a crack. I knew for a fact that it had been closed the night before. I stood there for a long time, just staring. Then, slowly, I reached forward and nudged it open. The closet was empty, but at the very bottom, in the corner, was a single footprint in the dust. And it wasn't mine. I shut the door and stepped back. I told myself that I imagined it. that it didn't mean anything. But I never slept in that house the same way again. Story 2. I was 16 the first time I thought I was going to die. It wasn't a car accident or an illness or some reckless mistake that put me in danger. It was a man, a stranger, a presence in the dark, watching me when I thought I was alone. My mom worked long hours as a nurse, pulling double shifts at the hospital. My older brother had moved out for college, leaving me in charge of the house most nights. At first, I didn't mind it. I liked the solitude, the independence. But the quiet has a way of getting into your head, making you feel like you're never really alone. That night, my friend Brielle had come over. We watched movies in my room, snacking on chips and candy, laughing at dumb jokes. Around 11, her parents texted, telling her to come home. She groaned but obeyed, grabbing her coat and heading out the front door. I walked her to the porch, watching as she jogged down the driveway to where her mom's car idled at the curb. She waved before slipping inside, and I waved back before stepping back inside and locking the door behind me. Then, I went upstairs to my room, flicked off the light, and settled into bed. It was maybe 20 minutes later when I heard it. A faint sound from outside. A scraping noise. I sat up, my body stiff with tension. My bedroom faced the backyard, and I could see the wooden deck from my window. It was late, and our house was set back from the road. No one should have been back there. Cautiously, I slid out of bed and padded over to the window. My fingers trembled as I pulled back the curtain, just an inch, just enough to see. A figure, sitting in one of the chairs on the deck. My heart lurched into my throat. The figure was slouched, its face tipped upward, staring at my window. The dim light from the neighbor's porch barely illuminated him, but I could see enough. He was a man. His shoulders were broad, his arms resting lazily on the chair's armrests. I couldn't make out his face. For a split second, I thought, Brielle? Had she come back? But no, this figure was too large. And when I hesitated, staring, the figure moved. It lifted its head slightly. It knew I was watching. My breath caught in my throat, and I stumbled backward, letting the curtain fall. My pulse thundered in my ears as I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and frantically texted Brielle. Me, did you come back to my house? Brielle. What? No? Me, there's someone outside, sitting on my deck. Brielle. WTF? Are you serious? Me. Yes. The moment I hit send, a new sound reached my ears. Tap, tap, tap. My stomach dropped. It was coming from my window. Slowly, so slowly, I turned my head. The curtain was still drawn, but I could see the faintest imprint of a hand pressing against the glass. I stopped breathing. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just stood there, frozen in place, my limbs locked with fear. Tap, tap. The hand slid downward, disappearing from view. I bolted. I ran from my room and down the stairs, my fingers shaking as I fumbled to lock the back door. I could barely think past the sound of my own heartbeat, my breath coming in short, panic bursts. Then I heard something else. The front doorknob rattled. A sharp, violent jolt against the wood. I gasped, stumbling backward. A second jolt. Harder this time. Whoever he was, he wasn't trying to be subtle anymore. I scrambled for my phone and dialed 911, my voice coming out in a desperate whisper as I explained what was happening. The operator told me to stay inside, to lock all the doors and wait for the police. I did as I was told, retreating to the kitchen and grabbing the biggest knife I could find. Minutes passed. Agonizing. Silent. Then, a voice. Muffled, distorted. Coming from outside the kitchen window. I turned my head, my breath catching. A shadow loomed just beyond the glass. I see you. The voice was thick, slurred, almost playful. I clenched the knife tighter, my whole body shaking. Then sirens. Bright, flashing lights filled the kitchen as the police car pulled into the driveway. The shadow at the window shifted, then disappeared. By the time the officers searched the yard, the man was gone. There were no footprints on the deck, no sign of forced entry, just an empty chair, slightly turned toward my bedroom window, as if someone had been waiting, watching. The officers assured me I was safe, that it was probably just a drunk wandering from the nearby bars. But I knew better. This wasn't a random accident. He had been waiting. He had been watching me. And somewhere, out there in the dark, I knew he still was. Story 3. I was 13 when I realized just how fragile the concept of safety really was. It was a Friday night, and my parents had rushed out of the house after receiving a phone call that my older sister had been in a car accident. I didn't hear much of the conversation. I just knew my mom had started crying, my dad had grabbed his coat, and within minutes, they were out the door, taking my little brother with them. I had been left home alone before, but this time, something about it felt different. Maybe it was the way my mom hesitated before leaving, glancing back at me with worry in her eyes. Maybe it was the fact that they had rushed out so quickly, leaving the front door unlocked in their haste. Or maybe it was just the quiet. I tried to focus on something else, video games, YouTube, anything to distract myself. But there was this, awareness in the back of my mind, a prickling sensation, like I was being watched. The feeling only got worse when I heard the front door open. I froze. I was in my room, upstairs. My first instinct was to think my parents had returned, but I hadn't heard a car pull up, hadn't heard their voices. The door closed softly. Footsteps. 3, maybe 4 pairs of them. I crept to my bedroom door, pressing my ear against the wood. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, moving through the house like they belonged there. My stomach twisted. I wanted to call my parents, but I knew, instinctively, that if I made a noise, if I even breathed too loudly, whoever was downstairs would hear me. I backed away, moving silently toward my closet. It was the only place I could think to hide. My bed was too obvious, the window too high to jump from. I slipped inside, tucking myself behind the boxes of old clothes and school projects. My breath was shallow, my hands trembling as I clutched my phone. And then, the worst thing happened. The footsteps stopped. Right outside my door. A soft creak of what his weight shifted on the floor. Then the doorknob turned. I bit down on my knuckles to stop from making a sound. The door swung open. Silence. I couldn't see from where I was hidden, but I could feel them standing there. Someone was in my room. Then, more footsteps. Slow, measured steps as they walked to my bed. A rustling sound. Sheets being lifted. They were checking the bed. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to will myself into non-existence. More silence. Then footsteps toward the closet. I stopped breathing. The door opened. I could see their legs. Black jeans, heavy boots. They just stood there. Seconds stretched into eternity. My chest burned from holding my breath. Then, finally, they stepped back. The closet door shut. The footsteps retreated. It took me almost a full minute before I allowed myself to breathe again. I stayed in that closet for what felt like hours, ears straining for any sound. Eventually, I heard the front door again, the same soft creak of hinges, the barely audible click as it closed. Only then did I dare to move. I emerged from my hiding spot on shaking legs, inching toward my bedroom door. The house was silent. I crept down the stairs. The front door was locked. The living room looked the same. The kitchen, untouched. But something felt wrong. I turned on every light in the house, trying to chase away the lingering dread. Then I saw it. The hall closet was open. Inside, on the floor, was a knife. I didn't call the police. I don't know why. Maybe because they hadn't taken anything. Maybe because I was too scared to even say the words out loud. But I didn't sleep that night. And when my parents came home the next morning, I didn't tell them. Because somehow, I knew if I acknowledged what had happened, if I said it out loud, it would make it real.